Hello everyone. Let's focus on well-being. There are different types of ways of understanding well-being. One is connected with thinking that well-being is a degree to which the person likes its life. The other is connected to a type of emotional response to events. So kind of the way whether a person reacts with positivity or negativity when something happens. That can be well-being. That could be well-being as well. But believe it or not, that could be well-being too. And that's important, that happiness is not always connected with positivity. You can experience negative emotions, you can struggle with difficulties in your life and still experience well-being. When we want to talk about well-being, it's really wise to mention a pretty interesting mechanism. It's called hedonic adaptation, and it's connected with the fact that when for some reason you experience really intensive positive emotions, let's say you won a lottery, we know that at the very beginning you experience a lot of positivity. You are really happy. You may feel that your well-being is higher than before. But in about a couple of months, it goes down to the baseline. This is how our nervous system works. And it's really useful because it works in a case where, for example, because of some reason you lost something. Let's say your sight. We had a research connected with the fact that when people, because of some kind of accident, lost their sight, after a couple of months of struggles, of lower well-being, of emotional difficulties, their well-being goes back to the baseline. And this is really amazing. It's like we have a tendency to experience the same amount of well-being, whether we struggle or we experience something really positive, like receiving something that is really expensive and it's really amazing. And it's wise to know, because for some people, they may have this idea that when I will be richer, or when I will have a better car, or a better career, something will be connected with prestige. They have this idea that they will be happier. But research shows that it's not that simple. And that would be really a waste of time and a waste of energy to think that in the future I will be happier. If I just have more, or if I just experience more prestige, I will be happier. It's not that simple. To give you an example, for some people, like the main goal is to have a wonderful house or a wonderful apartment. But what we know, thanks to the research, we know that it's much better for you guys to seek for meaning instead of things, instead of money, instead of possessions. There's nothing wrong with a great career or with a great house or great car. But at the same time, it's much better for you to remember that we are supposed to look for meaning, because it's strongly connected with well-being. And a little tip, thanks to the research, we know that it's much better to just experience positive emotions that are low in intensity from time to time. So it's better to experience things like meeting with a friend, or having coffee with someone you like, or reading your favorite book regularly. This is a source of positive emotions with a low intensity. It's much better than to experience positive emotions with a really high intensity, but just once a year, or just a couple of times during the year. It's much better to create situations in which you experience positive emotions that are not that intense. And this is what we can do in our life. And the most well-known and the most respected way of thinking about well-being is derived from a researcher who is pretty famous. This is Martin Seligman, Professor Seligman. And he describes well-being as a construct connected with few dimensions. First is engagement. When it comes to people, in order to experience well-being, we really need to be engaged in our lives. So, for example, when you read a book, be engaged. When you focus on your studies, it's really good for your well-being to find the motivation to engage in it, to try to grow as much as possible. When it comes to relationship, it's great for us to be engaged. The other is connected with accomplishments. So it's really wise for us, and it's really strongly connected with experiencing well-being, to see the positive results of our actions. So when you cope with difficulties and you manage to experience a positive result, or when you are engaged and the result of a situation is, for example, growth, it's wonderful for our well-being. The other, of course, it's connected with positive emotions, but as you can see, it's not the only thing that is connected with well-being. Positive emotions are great. They are good for our nervous system. They are great for our cardiovascular system, but they are just part of well-being. Today, we will strongly focus on positive emotions, but as you can see, it's wise to know that there is more to it. The other, of course, is connected with meaning. We, as human beings, we really need to see the importance of our actions, the importance of things that we spend time on. We really need to see that there is something beneath it, that we care to engage in something. And last but not least, relationships, of course. We are social creatures, and we really need to feel connected with people. So right now I want to focus a little bit on strategies that allows you to experience positive emotions. And the first is connected with something that is called adaptive goal processes. Basically, just imagine a person who would love to be an astronaut, but this person, just like me, is more than 30 years old. And it's kind of too late to become an astronaut. But thanks to this ability, a person can change the priorities and, for example, have a great career in one field, but at the same time decide to read about outer space or about, travels to space and go on. This person is able to experience positive emotions connected with growth in that field, but still base a career on something else. Or to give you another example, just think about a woman who gave birth to a child that is disabled. And this woman was extremely focused on her career. She was really successful. That was a wonderful thing to do for her, to grow in that area. But in that case, she won't be able to be equally successful in those fields equally. So thanks to this process, she will be able to change the priorities, and even though her career won't be that successful anymore, she will be able to experience positive emotions in the new role, because career is not that important. The priorities has changed, and this is what people can do. We can adapt this way. So right now, I would like to ask you to work in pairs and just think about a field or a particular situation in your life when you have decided to change the priorities in your life in order to be able to experience positive emotions in your academic, focus or somewhere else, and other things that maybe years ago you thought that that's the only thing that matters. Nowadays, it's not that important. But still, you can, for example, experience positive emotions while reading about it or somehow working with it. To give you an example, a person who was a successful athlete. Because of a knee injury, maybe won't be able to be a professional in that field, but still can experience positive emotions while, for example, teaching others. This kind of process. Work in pairs. Think about your life, and please reflect and share. Go. Just about a minute for you guys. Okay, wrap it up. Wrap it up. Sorry, I won't give you more time. Let's go next. The other strategy is connected with benefit findings. Benefit finding. So just imagine that a person can struggle with something difficult, right? With a situation that is really, really difficult to cope with. But at the same time, we as humans, we are able to look at the bigger picture and think that, okay, I struggle here. It's really difficult for me. But at the same time, I see that it allows me to grow, or it allows me to finally focus on something else, for example. To give you an example, let's say a person lost, it's a man, he lost his job, right? So he can be really anxious. He can think, oh my God, it's so awful, it's so terrifying. But at the same time, he's able to think to himself, but maybe I would never be able to find courage in myself to leave this job. I wanted that since a really, really long time, right? So right now, again, for about a minute or so, I want you to think about your life and about a particular area in your life that is for some reason difficult. Let's say it's connected with your studies or with your work. Think about a difficult area and also try to think about something that at the same time is connected with benefits. So maybe you struggle there, but at the same time it's a source of strength or knowledge or something else, of some kind of benefits. Go in your pairs. Okay, wrap it up. Again, sorry I'm interrupting. Did you guys manage to find some benefits in the areas that you struggle with? Did you manage or not? Some of you did. We as human beings, we can do that. So you can take a look whether it's possible in the future. The next one is connected with benefit reminding. So it's possible that we struggled before. We had a really difficult situation in the past. And after some time, we can think to ourselves, oh my God, that was so awful. That was really a source of suffering. But at the same time, people can think about aspects or areas of a situation or so that were a source of strength or knowledge and go on, of some positive aspects. To give you an example, maybe you met a person who struggled with cancer, right? An awful, awful struggle. And after surviving that, that person could say, oh my God, That was the most awful period of my life. I would never like to experience that again, never. But at the same time, I noticed how close my friends are, how supportive they were, right? Or I noticed how strong I can be when I struggle, when I feel anxiety and go on. So it was a source of suffering, and by all means, for sure, it was a source of something difficult, but at the same time, a person can see that it was source of something positive. So right now, please, once again, I would like you to reflect on some kind of difficult situation from the past and think about positive aspects of that situation that were a result of that struggle. Go. That probably was really positive because you don't want to stop. Okay, thank you guys. Let's go next. There's a little bit of more inspirations for you. So next one is infusing ordinary events with a positive meaning, and it's one of my favorites. So just imagine that we can be like, okay, I'm at work, and a colleague of mine said something like, really, I want to tell you something that I would love to work with you more because you are a professional. I respect you that much. I loved working with you on that project. And as a result, we could be like, okay, that was nice, that's it. Or we could really focus on that situation and appreciate it. We can think, oh my God, that's so nice that someone noticed how engaged I was, or how focused, or how motivated to cooperate I was. We can like infuse it with positive meaning. Or for example, a friend of yours could be like, let's have coffee together, right? And you could have this regular coffee with that person, but also you could be really mindful about it and think, oh my God, it's so amazing that I have people in my life that care, that are interested in my life, and I'm also interested in their lives. You can infuse it with a positive meaning. And the same thing when it goes to your life when you go home, right? Whether you have someone that you live with, or you may have an animal at home, you could be like, okay, I'm at home, that's nice. Or you could make this meal together something special, like something really important. And it's a wonderful source of positive emotions when you infuse it with a positive meaning. So again, right now, I would like you to reflect on your life and talk in pairs about situations, simple situations that you could infuse with a positive meaning. Go. The simpler, the better. Okay, thank you guys. Let's go next. Next strategy is called increasing positive affect. So let's say you passed an exam. Is it a good thing? Right? Probably. So you could be like, okay, that's nice. Or you could be like that. That's amazing. That's great, right? Or, for example, you've been working on a project. It was important for you, and you managed to finish that project, or something good happened according to that was connected with that project. And after, you could be like, okay, that's good. Or you could be like, yes, right? And this is exactly it. As you can see on the picture, athletes tend to do that. And it's a great strategy for us as well. So right now, I would like you to reflect and share just an example of a situation where you succeeded, maybe last year, and just discuss whether you increased the positivity, or you were like, okay, that's nice, let's go next, right? So please reflect and share. Go. Okay, let's go next. Next one is called reminding positive events. So we have this ability to go through life, and at some time, some moment in life when it's not that good, maybe when we struggle or when we are just focused on doing something difficult, we have this ability to remind ourselves an event or a period of time when we experience something really, really good, really, really amazing. So just to give you an example, that picture was taken during my previous vacation. And when I was there, during that time, I was really focused on every moment. I was like, remember that experience, because in a couple of months, when the environment will change, the weather will change, you will be able to remind yourself of that time and treat it as a resource. And this is what we can do, even when it comes to loss. So just think about a person who lost a parent, for example. And at some moment in life, this person can struggle with something, but just the thought of a situation where a parent cared for that person, or just a thought about, just thinking about time spent together, can be a wonderful resource connected with diverse but also positive emotions. So right now, please reflect on a situation from your past that was connected with positivity, with positive emotions, and to give an example to the other person. Go. It could be really simple or really complex, up to you. Wrap it up. Did you manage to find some positive events from the past? Luckily, great. Let's focus on meaning for a while. As I said, the other really important part of well-being is just our ability to find the sense of meaning in the things we do in life. And it's connected with difficult situations. Just imagine a person who, let's say a parent who lost a child. And for this person, it was an awful, like really, really, really big loss, right? But if this person decides to engage in helping other parents or children who lost their parents, this person starts to do something meaningful. And there is space for struggling, there is space for really, really difficult emotions, but at the same time, there is not only suffering present, there is also meaning, doing something that is connected with values. Also, when it comes to you guys engaging in things that matter to you, when it comes to your academic life, or for some people, when it comes to work, it's really good for our well-being when we are able to see that the things that we do, even though some of them can be really difficult or boring, exhausting, and go on, when we see that beneath them there are values, it's much better for our motivation, it's much better for our well-being, for how we feel during those situations and during doing other activities. And in order to cope with that, I want you to engage in a little exercise. Here you can see just a list of values. Of course, that could be much more. And right now, I would like you to just at least try to find about 3 values that you care about right now, in that moment in life. Just pick 3. That seems to be kind of important. You could pick less or more. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be precise 3, but try, okay? Did you manage? Some of you, but at least 1? Great. If you don't see those values because it's too far, just think about your own, the ones that just appear in your head, right, in your mind. Just think about at least 3. Okay, so if you have them, now think about a project or area in your life that nowadays you are really focused on. Let's say academic life or volunteering, whatever that is. Think about things that you do and that you are engaged in. And right now, try to think whether there is a connection between at least one value that you care about and that thing that you do. For example, if I care about freedom, is it somehow connected with my studies? Maybe not directly, right? But maybe I have this idea that if I will manage to finish my studies, at some point I will be able to feel free, or I will be able to decide more about my life and go on. So please, for a while, reflect on those values and also on those areas in your life. And after a couple of seconds, please share it with your partner, whether you found this association or not. You don't have to, because you have many values, but when it comes to us as humans, when we see that there is something beneath those things that we do, and when we see the connection with something that we care about, it helps us be more resilient, and it's connected with a higher well-being. Please share. Go. Okay, thank you guys. Hopefully you managed to share. Okay, so right now at the end I would like to share with you 2 other possible areas connected with our well-being. One is sport, actually. If I would be looking for just one advice, what could you do to increase your well-being immediately? I would choose physical activity. What we know from the research is that people who do a regular physical activity changes their brain. Their brain becomes more used to and sensitized to experience positivity while doing other things. So a person who practice physical activity regularly will be also, after some time, will be also a person who will be much more able to enjoy great meal or a wonderful meeting with a friend, or will experience an ability to be mindful while having contact with nature. Just physical activity is something that makes our brain being able to experience positive emotions better in other areas. So keep it in mind that it's really wise to do sport. But also, I told you that a part of well-being is being connected with others, this feeling of connectedness. And I have one example of research. In that particular research, researchers found that the level of hostility was connected with the time that was needed for the wounds of partners to be healed. And the higher the level of hostility, the more time was needed for the person to heal. So it's just one physical example, or we could say psychosomatic example, where your connection with the others and the quality of it is connected with how good your body is when it comes to being resilient and when it comes to healing. So it's really wise to invest in positive relations with others. And just to give you an example at the end, I want to say that you guys are really young, and it's completely natural for you to dream about something big, career, wonderful travels, like doing something that is really exciting and it's perfect, like invest in it. But at the same time, when it comes to the research connected with positivity, with emotions, with well-being, we know that it's really wise to be able to appreciate small things in our life, because there also can be a source of positive emotions, and those things are the cheapest, and it's the most easy way to invest in our well-being on a daily basis. And this is what I hope you will be able to do. And if you are looking for some more materials, recommendations, and go on, you are able to find them on that web page. Thank you, guys. And now off the record, do you have any questions? Did you manage to have, I mean, don't feel the pressure. We are not recording, but if you do, and if you hesitate during the workshop, during the lecture, feel free to ask.
Well, actually, I have a question, but it's a bit long.
Feel free.
Well, basically, I've heard some kind of conspiracy theory that it's been told that for example, if you're feeling sad, if you force yourself to smile and then some time off, that you will be happy. But that theory says that in that moment, you are supposed to be sad in order to not to feel much more sad in the future. Yeah. So basically, it says that you're consuming your well-being in that moment, that where you shouldn't do that.
So, yeah. When it comes to the research connected with doing something with your face muscles, absolutely there is a connection. We know that when I experience negative emotions and I put a pencil in my mouth, I can change the direction in which my muscle goes, and it will increase positivity, or when I change it, it can increase negative emotions. And for sure, like, our brain monitors our body, and what we do with the body influences our emotional states. But at the same time, it's not that it's not therapeutic, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm depressed, probably it won't help me in the long run. I would need some professional help. But just to give you an example, because this is like a really interesting field of research, just a couple of weeks ago I wrote a study that was connected with people with depression who didn't respond to medical treatment and psychotherapeutic treatment, and the effective factor that helped was actually Botox. right? When those muscles here were paralyzed, it appeared as a result that the therapy started to work, because that's how this is like really strongly connected with our facial expressions. So there is some area where probably we will be able to use it as a resource, but of course not like a therapy in itself. But when it comes to working with your emotional states, I would never say like, if you feel sad, just put a pencil in your mouth. I would rather say, just, yeah, right? I mean, you can do it for fun, even if it works. But like what we know from the psychology is that we should like notice those emotions, respect them and accept them because they appear for a reason, and then try to understand them. Like, what is the reason for them? What made them appear? In many cases, that would help. And in some cases, if it won't, we can, for example, use psychotherapy to try to change the way we think. So to give you an example, if for some reason at work or at school, there is someone who gives me negative feedback, right? It can be like, that person do it in the wrong way. That's why I experience anxiety, for example. So maybe the best thing to do would be to accept those emotions, because maybe he or she is a teacher and I can't really, do a lot with that. But in some cases, when the feedback is positive, or it's my role as a student to receive feedback, but still I struggle, maybe I would get some help professionally at some point. And a professional would help me to change the way I think about feedback, right? In order to experience maybe excitement, not necessarily anxiety, and go on. So we have many resources, but I wouldn't say it's a conspiracy. For sure we have some research, and it's kind of a classical research. Yeah. Anyone else? Great.
Well, you talked about the happiness. And, well, I can share a quote from Carl Rogers, which he basically says, happiness is not a destination, it's more likely a way of thinking. Yeah. So I just want to ask, what do you think about this quote? Because it was kind of very similar to me, so that's kind of triggered my mind to remember.
It's a wonderful quote. I would say maybe I didn't emphasize that enough, because I think it's amazing. I would say that a person can have a really difficult life at some point. Just imagine again a parent who has a disabled child, right? And still he or she has a life where there is a lot of fear, a lot of negative emotions, but at the same time, this person can be happy in a role of being a parent or a caregiver, because again, having a child is connected with stress or distress, but also with this feeling of engagement, of connection, and of love, and go on. So I would say, like, this is a journey, and for sure the end game is not to experience happiness itself, or not to experience positive emotions, but just it would be wise to remember that happiness is also connected with negativity, because negative emotions are a sign that we care in many cases. So for sure, like that would be a pity to think that in life my goal is to be happy. That would be fine if we would remember that happiness is well-being, which is much more than positive emotions. And probably I think that what he mentioned is that like happiness is not only experiencing positive emotions. They can be a side effect of doing things that matter. Great. Hello.
Hi. I was wondering if some kind of the personality maybe are more welcome to have a joy and happiness in their life. Maybe this is something, I don't know, this is the only question. If there is a type of genetic people which are more welcome, to be more sad, more depressive, and more well-being. In this term, maybe very, not specific.
Yeah, I hope it won't be too negative, because actually what we know is that about 50% of this kind of percentage of our well-being is connected with our genes. So basically, we are born with a particular ability to experience positivity. So some people probably won't go, up too high, but still, this is so lucky, this is so positive that well-being is much more than just positive emotions, because even if it's like I'm born with this tendency to experience a lot of negative emotions, I'm able to work with increasing those positive. That's why I shared those strategies. But at the same time, absolutely each person can look for meaning. But we know that it's not just nurturing, it's not just environment, there are also genes involved. And also, what we know from the research on depression, for example, is that if we had a parent or two parents or someone in the family who struggled with depression, we are much more likely to experience that again. But still, it's not just heritage. We can do a lot with our environment as well. But if we were born at this kind of family, it's possible that we will be much more likely to struggle.
Okay, so we have to exercise.
Yeah,
practice a lot.
Absolutely. I would say it's, a lot of research connected with this field is showing us that it's a matter of habit, right? We can train our brain to be focused on positive stimuli in our life. Again, hopefully it will be somehow useful for you guys. As I mentioned, the strategy connected with infusing regular events with positive meaning. At some point you can be experiencing like a repetitive event, coffee with friends again. And you can consciously think to yourself, I want to experience that as something unique, as something important. And the fact that I don't experience pain right now, it is a privilege, because there are people who struggle every day. And this is how you can use your cognitive processes. And in the long run, it helps. So for sure, we can use our brain, our cognitive processes to help us experience more, experience higher well-being. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Well-being is, I don't know, being sad also can be well-being, and
yes,
because as human beings we kind of divided the emotions into two categories, good and bad.
Exactly, positive and negative.
But in terms of well-being, there are some situations that we need to be angry. I don't know, we need to be sad, or the reactions needs to be reacted. I don't know. The emotions need to be reacted in a way, right?
So,
but how do we keep this balance? Because sometimes there are people who can be angry, I don't know, very simple situations, which is not the right place to be angry, right?
Of course.
That's, I don't know, the balance, how it should be, or I don't know.
We learn to balance thanks to emotional regulation. Some people are better with that, some people struggle with that, but if at some point we notice that, for example, our work is a source of mostly negative emotions, we may reflect on what's the reason. Is it like this environment is toxic? Maybe it is. Or maybe the way we cope with challenges or pressure is not necessarily that effective as we would like it to be. And when it comes to emotional regulation, it's really helpful to, as I said before, to notice what is the reason for emotions we experience and what can we do with it. Because in some cases, the best thing would be to accept those emotions, even when they are negative. For example, when you lost someone you care about or you was rejected, it's much better to think to yourself, I experience the negative emotions because I care, but acceptance doesn't mean being overwhelmed with those emotions. It rather means that when I accept it, I still can do things that will allow me to feel better or to balance myself. I can still meet with a friend, I can still cry, I can still ask for professional help if it's needed. I can go to the cinema, I can read a book, I can do something that is a sign of self-care, but still accept the fact that nowadays, for a reason, I experience negative emotions. The same when it comes to a great loss, when we, struggle for months. There is, thanks to acceptance of negative emotions and negativity, we create a space for positive emotions. But emotional regulation is of course connected with the way we were raised, connected with the experiences at school, at work, in our life. The longer we live, the more time we have to practice that. But sometimes the best thing to do is to seek professional help. Psychotherapy is great in helping people with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, guys, thank you very much for being here. That will be much more difficult to deliver when no one would be here, just the camera, you know, so it was easier. Thank you. If you have any private questions, feel free to ask, and see you during classes or somewhere, or on the corridor. Thank you, guys.